Welcome back, everyone. I'm so glad that you joined me today because I want to try to answer a question, and that is this: does God tempt us to sin? But before we do that, I want to share with you my new book. This is just a proof copy. It's not quite ready to be published yet. I'm doing the last review of it, and it's An Inevitable Collision: How to Prepare Your Church for the Clash of Morality and a Gender-Confused Culture. All church leaders, I think, need to read this because it will help you know how to deal with the LGBTQ agenda that is facing our churches and facing Christians today. So I'll have more on that later. But right now, I want to answer this question: does God tempt us to sin? You might say, I never really thought about that. Or you might remember a verse that is in what we call the Lord's Prayer, which is actually the model prayer that Jesus was giving to his disciples to follow if they so choose as a framework for prayer. And it says this in Matthew chapter 6, verse 13, and do not lead us into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. What does that mean? That God does lead us into temptation? We're supposed to pray that he won't lead us into temptation. So that means that he does, right? I mean, it's kind of like telling your child that they can't go in a certain room in your house and then putting their dinner plate in that room so they have to go in there, like you're forcing them to sin. This just doesn't seem to be what we understand of God, where he would tell us not to sin, and then he would uh, tempt us to sin. So there's another verse that adds to the confusion just a little bit. When we get over to the book of James, chapter 1 and verse 13, let no one say when he is tempted, I am tempted by God. For God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he himself tempt anyone. So wait a minute here. If God doesn't tempt us, why would we then have to ask him not to lead us into temptation in the Lord's Prayer? So I just want to point out a few things to you here today, just to help with this if you ever question this. First of all, in Matthew 6:13, it does not explicitly say that God does tempt us to sin. It just says, ask him, not to deliver us into sin. Okay, so it doesn't specifically say that. He does. Now, obviously, that's not going to answer the questions. It doesn't really solve our mystery. So the second thing I want to share with you is that we should consider this verse as a whole. And let me actually show it to you again here. Don't just break it down into two parts and do not lead us in temptation, which means he must. No, consider the whole thing. Do not lead us in temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. Take it as a whole. We are asking God to deliver us from sin. We're asking God to deliver us from this temptation. It's like saying, God, don't ever put me in that situation again because I think I'm going to sin if I get into it again. But the third thing, what I think was the most important thing that I want us to understand today, is that there are actually two different kinds of temptation. We ask God to deliver us from temptation. There are two types of temptation. And here's the first one. The first one is one that we usually think of: enticement to sin. Temptation is when I have this desire to do something that I should not do. We all understand what this is like. And back in our verse in James, when it says, let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God, for God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he himself tempt anyone. This is what he's talking about. He is not going to try to coerce us to sin. It's our own fault. As a matter of fact, the next verse right after that in James 1:14 says, but each one is tempted when he is drawn away by his own lust and by his own desires and enticed. It's our fault when we sin. It's not God's fault. That's where the temptation comes from. It doesn't come from God. So when we say that God does not tempt us to sin, we mean that he is not actually putting something out there saying, come on, please sin. Come on, I want you to do this. No, he's not doing that. But there's a second type of temptation that we have, and that is testing. And yes, God does test us. And when we are tested, there's the opportunity that we could fail, but that is not why God is testing us. He puts us through the tests. As a matter of fact, that's what he did back in the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve. He put the tree of the knowledge of good and evil right there, and he said, don't eat of it. He wasn't doing that to force them to go and eat it. He was putting that there as a test for them. Will you do what I tell you to do? And we know they failed. That kind of a test is the kind of test that sets you up for either success or failure. But it's your choice what you do with it. It's like going to school and having a test. Your teacher, most teachers, did not give you a test because they just wanted to see you fail. Let me make this as hard as I can so nobody passes. There's some sadistic teachers like that, right? But most of them aren't like that. Most of them want to test your knowledge. They want to test your skill and see where you're at. Driver's training. Yeah, the driver instructor gets in your car. They're not hoping you crash, but they're giving you a test to see how well you know what you're doing there. So that's the kind of testing that we have. And that's the kind of testing that God does give to us. We saw God do that with Abraham and Isaac. Abraham, go sacrifice your son Isaac. That was not a test to get him to sin. That was a test for him to prove his faithfulness and his belief in God. I want to show you this verse in 1 Peter chapter 1, 2 verses 6 and 7. He says, "In this you greatly rejoice." He's talking to Christians who are experiencing persecution. "In this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while, if need be, you have been grieved by various trials." Why? "That the genuineness of your faith, being much more precious than gold that perishes, though it is tested by fire, may be found to praise, honor, and glory at the revelation of Jesus Christ." These people were experiencing a time of testing, and because of the testing, there was temptation. They could have rejected what they knew. They could have recanted their faith. That would have been a sin. But they stayed strong. God did not bring the persecution, or at least allow the persecution, to try to get them to fall. He allowed it because when they came through their persecution and they were strong through it, they would glorify him. So let's return here quickly to our 2 verses, and I want to give an illustration I think will help understand this a little bit better. So he says, first of all, this is what you pray. "Do not lead us into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one." God, don't lead us into temptation. We can't deal with that. And then he says, oh, by the way, he doesn't do that. I don't say I'm tempted by God, because God doesn't tempt you and he can't be tempted by evil himself. So how do we explain this? How do we do this? I just want to give an illustration that maybe will help with understanding how it is that God actually might put these temptations on us. And here it is. Let's just say you have a football team and you have a running back who every time they call a play, he gets the ball and he just gets whacked. Man, he gets flattened every single time. And he gets up and he tries it again. The quarterback hands him the ball and he just gets flattened again. Here's my question. Why is the running back failing each time? It's because he doesn't have the skill to be able to make it through. You say, well, it's the quarterback's fault because he keeps handing the ball. It's the coach's fault because he keeps calling this certain play. No, ultimately, it comes down to the running back that can't handle his job. He's not strong enough. He's not practiced enough, whatever it is. Yes, the coach is putting him in that position, but the coach is not putting him in that position because he wants him to fail. He's not saying, let's call this play so that the running back will fail. No, he's saying, let's call this play because it's going to be hard. The running back may fail, but it also sets him up for a great success. And everyone will pat his back and cheer, if he runs to the other side and makes a touchdown. The coach's decision is there to help the running back succeed, not to help him fail. And that's exactly what I think God does for us when he sends us temptation, when he sends us this testing. It's not to get us to sin, but he puts things in our path that will allow us to prove the strength of our faith, that will allow us to succeed. That is what he wants. So when we come to the Lord's Prayer, where Jesus says, lead us not in temptation, why would we do this? Because obviously God isn't tempting us to sin. Why would we pray for this? What does that mean? And this is what I think it means. I think when he says that we should ask not to be led in temptation, I think it's like being that running back in our illustration and going to the coach and saying, Coach, you're putting me in this position. I can't do it. Every time they're flattening me. They're going to kill me out here. I can't do this. Please don't call that play anymore. Please take me out of the game for a while. I need to go back. I need to practice. I need to look at the playbooks more. I need to get stronger. And then maybe I'll be ready to face this situation that I have. So when we are coming to God and we're praying, do not lead us into temptation, I think that's what it's talking about. Not that we don't want any testing, not that we don't want any of this, but there's some points we just can't do it. We know if we have to face the enemy at this time, we're not going to be able to make it. And so we pray, God, don't put me in that situation right now. I need to get stronger before I'm ready to face it. And when I'm ready to face it, I'll go out there and I'll do it, and I'll glorify you through it. So there you go. Does God tempt us to sin? No. Does God put testing in our way to help us become stronger and to help show our faith in him? Yes, he does, but he doesn't do it so we fail. He does it so we will succeed. All right, God bless you guys, and I'll see you next time.